In this video, you will learn 20 things to do after installing OpenSUSE. And we will start with the system updates. Open the terminal and run this command. So make sure your system is up to date. If you are running OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, as I do, you also need to run the command distro upgrade to make sure your Tumbleweed is the latest. So as you can see, although I didn't have any update with update command, but I have updates with distro update command. So I will install them. So now our system has the latest software. I will be showing you things to do after installing OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, but when there is difference for OpenSUSE Leap, I will mention that. Let's continue to the next step. Create system snapshot. Before we apply any changes to our system, it is a good idea to back up everything, and we can easily do it in OpenSUSE with the snapshot tool. Open Yast, go to File System Snapshots, and then click Create. You can give it a name, Before Things to Do After Install. Click OK. Now the snapshot is created. If something goes wrong during the installation, you can always select this snapshot and revert back all the changes. Now you are safe to continue to things to do after installing OpenSUSE. Install drivers. If you run OpenSUSE on some hardware that requires proprietary drivers for better performance, such as NVIDIA graphic cards or some Wi-Fi cards, you may need to install proprietary drivers. You can easily do it with the help of this website, which is called OpenSUSEcommunity.org. If you go to that website, you will see there is an option to install NVIDIA drivers with just one click. If you are not sure whether you need to install GeForce 600 series or 400 series, you can click on this link, and in the supported products, you will be able to find what graphic cards are supported here. If you don't know what graphic cards you are running, you can open the terminal and run this command. And as you can see, I have GeForce GTX 1650 mobile graphic card. So this card belongs to the 16 series, and I need to install GeForce 600 for this card. I will click on this one-click install, select Yes to open this file, and perform the installation. After the installation has finished successfully, I recommend you to reboot your system, and after the reboot you can open NVIDIA settings and check if everything is configured correctly. Fortunately for me, and unfortunately for you, I don't have a Wi-Fi card which requires proprietary drivers, so I cannot show you how to install them, but I can navigate you to the guide how to do that. And if you go to OpenSUSEguide.org, you will be able to find instruction for Wi-Fi drivers installation. This is very simple instructions which will help you to identify your Wi-Fi card, and it will recommend you what driver you need to install to make that Wi-Fi card work. The link to this guide will be provided in the description. Install Codecs. OpenSUSE doesn't have all the necessary codecs to play media files by default because of the licensing issue, but you can easily install the necessary codecs. Again, if you go to the website OpenSUSEcommunity.org, you will be able to install all the necessary codecs with one click. For example, I run OpenSUSE with Plasma 5, so I need to install KDE codecs. But if you run it on GNOME, you can select this option. Then you just click OK to open this file with Yast, Next, and perform the installation. You can trust this source. If you see a message like this, I always recommend you to install the newer version here. So select this one and this one. So usually I select the version 1 here. OK. Then click Accept and continue to install everything. When codecs are installed, you should have no problems playing any media format, whether it is video MP4 format or MP3 files in your audio player. Before we continue to the next thing to do after installing OpenSUSE, I would like to introduce you the sponsor of this video, SkillShare. SkillShare is an online learning community where members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback from the community. Previously, I recommended you SkillShare courses on Linux, web development, and programming. Today, I would like to highlight the course on productivity, which is called Productivity Masterclass by Thomas Frank. It is a great course which will help you to organize things in your life. I particularly like the emphasis on digital products for productivity in this course. There are many other courses which will help you to deepen existing passions and explore new skills. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of SkillShare Premium membership to check this and thousands of other great SkillShare courses. Add community repositories. By default, OpenSUSE has only official packages included in its default repositories, and the list of these packages is quite limited. Most likely you would like to extend it to the community repository and being able to install most of the packages which are available in Linux. If you go to this page, you will see there is a large list of repositories which you can add to your OpenSUSE. But I think the most important one is Pacman, because this is the most extensive repository, and you can easily add it following these commands, or if you open Yast, go to Software Repositories, click Add, select Community Repositories, Next, and select Pacman repository. Click OK, and ideally you should be able to add this repository, but if you see this error, it means that right now this server is not available, and there is some migration going on, so maybe by the time you watch this video it is working properly. But if you get this error, don't get scared. There is a list of mirrors for Pacman repository which you can use to add it to your OpenSUSE. For example, I will use this link from Germany. And to add it, again I go to Yast, click Add, select Specify URL, Next, and paste the URL here. And I will give it a name Pacman. Next. Now the repository is added. I will also increase its priority so that packages will be installed first of all from this repository and then from the official repositories of OpenSUSE. This is also what is OpenSUSE guide recommends. Click OK. Now the repository is added, but if you want to follow the command line way, these are the commands which you can run in your terminal to add this repository to your OpenSUSE. And in the end, it is very important also to run this command. So to make sure that OpenSUSE will install packages from Pacman repository as a first priority, you just need to open the terminal, paste this command, you need to run it with sudo privileges, enter your password, say yes. Now your OpenSUSE updates all the packages with this Pacman repository. There are many other repositories which you can add to your OpenSUSE, just check this page. Install Microsoft Fonts. If you work with documents which are produced with Microsoft Office, most likely these documents use Microsoft Fonts. And to display such documents correctly in your OpenSUSE, you need to install Microsoft Fonts. You can easily do with the help of Pacman repository, which we added as the previous step. So now when you open Yast Software Manager and search for Fetch MS Fonts package, you will see it here, it's available for installation. Just install it and Microsoft Fonts will be available on your system. If you get this notification, you just need to accept it, and now the installation of Microsoft Fonts is complete. So if you open LibreOffice, you will see that fonts such as Arial, Times New Roman, Comic Sans are available in your LibreOffice. So now any document created with Microsoft Office should be displayed correctly. You're also free to use these fonts when you produce documents with your LibreOffice. Decrease swappiness. You can gain some performance improvement if you force your OpenSUSE to use RAM as much as possible and start writing to the swap partition, which is located on your hard drive, only when the RAM is almost full. I have a separate video on swap on Linux which I recommend you to watch. And to decrease swappiness in OpenSUSE, you need to open terminal and first check the current swappiness value with this command. The default value is 60, but we can reduce it to 10. To do that, you need to run this command, which will open sysctl config file, and here at the end of the file we need to add the line which says vm.swappiness equal 10. Ctrl O to save this file and Ctrl X to exit from Nano Editor. Now reboot your system. After the reboot, open the terminal again and check the current swappiness value. It should be 10. So now OpenSUSE will write everything to the RAM as much as possible, and only when it is almost full, it will start writing to the swap partition on your hard drive. What you will mostly see is some performance improvement. Disable GRUB delay. When you start your OpenSUSE, you see this GRUB screen at the boot, and you either need to wait 8 seconds before your system starts to boot, or you need to press enter. But if OpenSUSE is the only system on your computer, you can benefit from removing this 8 seconds delay. And to do it, you open Yast, go to bootloader, bootloader options, and here you decrease the delay to 0 seconds. Click OK. So next time you start up your OpenSUSE, it will start booting process right away without 8 seconds delay. Disable click to open files. By default in Plasma 5 desktop, if you click on a file or a folder, it will open that file or a folder. But I don't like this behavior, because just to select a file or a folder, you need to press Ctrl and then select that file. But I prefer to use single click to select and double click to open. And you can easily enable that behavior in Plasma 5 if you go to the settings, workspace behavior, and here you select click files or folders, select them. This behavior is also known as single click and double click behavior. So now, to open a folder I need to double click, and to enter the folder I need to double click again. But a single click simply selects a folder or a file. I am more used to this behavior, but if you like single click to open files and folders, you can skip this step. Uninstall Discover Software Center. OpenSUSE has some redundancy here. As you have seen before, we installed most of the packages using software management from Yast. But there is another software manager which comes with a Plasma 5 desktop environment, and it is called Discover. I really don't get this redundancy of two software managers here, so I prefer to have just one software manager, and for me it's better to have Yast, because this is the power of OpenSUSE. So I recommend you to remove Discover Software Manager, and it can be easily done without any consequences for your system. So just search for Discover in Yast Software Manager and select it for removal. Here you need to select the first option to remove all the dependencies. These dependencies will not break your system, and click Accept. So now for all the installation and removal of packages, you can use Yast Software Manager. Open RPM packages with Yast. There is one more thing related to package management in OpenSUSE which I recommend you to configure. For example, by default, if you open any RPM package, it will be open as archive with arc, but this is not a desired behavior. It should be open with Yast Software Manager. And to enable that behavior, you need to find any RPM package, for example like Google Chrome here, and I will show you how to install Google Chrome later in this video. So you just select any RPM package, right click on it, go to Properties, File Type option, and here you need to make sure that Yast is at the top of the list. Click OK. OK again. Now when you double click on an RPM package, it will be open with Yast Software Manager, and you should be able to install that RPM package in your OpenSUSE. Like Google Chrome here, as you can see, it is available for installation. Turn on Night Color. Night Color reduces the amount of blue light on your screen at night time, which is better for your eyes, and it also helps you to fall asleep easily. It is a built-in feature of OpenSUSE Plasma 5 desktop, you just need to enable it. If you go to the settings, display and monitor, night color tab, and here you just need to activate it. You can adjust these settings, but I believe the default settings are fine for most of the users. Then you just click apply, and now your eyes will be a little bit protected at night. Change task switcher. By default in OpenSUSE, if you press Alt Tab, your task will be switched with this theme. So you will see the panel on the left, and every window which you select will be highlighted. Personally, I am not a fan of this task switcher, and I prefer large icons without the selection of focused window. So let me just show you what I like. Maybe you will also prefer that type of task switcher. If you go to the settings, window management, task switcher, here you can select different task switchers. So the default one is Breathe, but I prefer large icons task switcher without selecting the windows. Apply. So now when I press Alt-Tab, I can see the large icons of all open windows and select them. And when I switch between them, as you can see, the focused window does not switch. I think it is much better task switcher, or maybe I'm just used to this task switcher. Let me know your preference in the comments under this video. Install Audio Player. By default, OpenSUSE has only VLC player, which you can use for play audio files as well, but I prefer to have a dedicated audio player. And there are many options you can choose from, but my favorite is Clementine. You can also try Uke, which is a lighter version of audio player. Or for example, if you use Spotify to listen to music, you can install it too and use it as your audio player. All these packages are available in Yast Software Center. So this is Clementine, which I'm going to install. You can also search for Uke here and install it. And if you search for Spotify, you will see Spotify installer is also available. So choose your favorite option here and install it. If you know a better player for Plasma 5 desktop, please let me know in the comment sections, but these are my favorite options. And after the installation, the player is available in Multimedia tab. Firefox Settings. Firefox is a default browser of OpenSUSE, and it is also my favorite browser. And there are a few things which I recommend you to change in your Firefox. First of all, after you have opened Firefox first time, you should see this icon in your tray, which suggests you to install Plasma 5 integration for your Firefox, and I recommend you to do it. It will bring you to this add-on page where you can install Plasma 5 integration add-on. Just install it. So now you should be able to see native notification from your Firefox in your Plasma 5 desktop, and there are some other features which come with this extension. The next thing I recommend to do is to go to the Settings, Preferences, and enable Restore Previous Session. So when you close Firefox with several tabs open, they will open again next time you launch Firefox. I think this behavior is very useful. Also, if you scroll down in these settings, I recommend you to enable Play DRM Controlled Content. This way you will be able to play Netflix videos, for example, inside your Firefox. And also, if you go to the search settings, I usually switch to separate bar for my URL bar and the search bar. Because, for example, if you search for an email address and you paste it here in your URL bar, it will not perform a search, but it will try to open email client. And there are some other unusual behaviors when you use URL and search bar as a one bar. So I prefer to have a separate search bar. In addition to this, I don't really like this empty space here, which is just waste of space in my opinion. So if you right click here, go to Customize, you can remove this white space. So now Firefox looks much better, and I think its behavior is also a little bit better than it is by default. I hope you will like these settings of Firefox. Install Google Chrome. I know that not everyone is a fan of Firefox, and there are still many Google Chrome users. So if you prefer to run Google Chrome, you can install it in OpenSUSE as well. Just go to the Google Chrome website, click to download it, and select RPM package. Accept and download it. Save the file, and after you have saved it, go to your file manager, Downloads, you should see this RPM package, and double click to install it. By default, if you follow the previous steps of things to do after installing OpenSUSE, it should be open in Yast Software Manager. If it is not, please watch the previous steps of things to do after installing OpenSUSE. Select it for installation and click Accept. So you can ignore any integrity checks here. So when the installation is finished, you should be able to find Google Chrome in your Internet tab in the Plasma 5 menu. So here it is, everything works fine. Install Java. There are many programs which require Java environment to run, so make sure you have all the necessary Java packages installed in your OpenSUSE. To do that, open Yast Software Center and search for Java. You will see that Java 11 runtime environment is already installed on your system. If it is not, please install it. If you need more recent version of Java, you can scroll down here and install other versions of Java. However, to run some web applications, you also need to install Java plugin. And to do that, you need to search for the package Yast and install Yast web plugin. So now you have complete set of Java tools to run Java applications. Install build essentials, or in other words, install developmental packages. Even if you are not a developer, there is a high probability that you will need some of these packages. For example, if you come from Ubuntu world, you know that it is often recommended to do after installing Ubuntu. So I also recommend you to install these developmental packages after installing OpenSUSE. Because when you compile some packages, or maybe you do some automatic compilation, these packages will be needed as dependencies. So just install them now and don't worry about them in the future. And to install them, you need to go to Software Management and search for the package which is called patents devel base devel bases and install it. So this will install all essential packages you may need if you compile a program. For example, if you have ever used make and make install, this is where you would need these packages. And they are already installed on your system, so you won't have any problem with finding all the necessary dependencies. Remove games. I think OpenSUSE is a little bit cluttered with software which is not essential. For example, I don't really like these games which are installed by default. I'm not going to play them, and they not only take space on my hard drive, but they also take space in my menu, and I don't like them, so I prefer to remove them. And to do that, I just need to open Software Manager, search for game, and remove all the games which I'm not going to play. Whenever you see a warning like this, just select that you want to remove all the related dependencies, but be careful and pay attention to what dependencies you remove, because sometimes package can be linked to the whole Plasma 5 desktop, and you don't want to remove Plasma 5 desktop. But most of these games are safe to remove. Just select them for removal, and then click Accept, and remove all the games. When games are removed, you get some free space on your hard drive, and your menu is not cluttered with games menu anymore. Install Vanilla Kernel. This is an optional step, and I recommend you to do it only if you experience any problem with the default OpenSUSE kernel, because the default kernel is patched with OpenSUSE specific packages and it may not work correctly on some hardware. However, in most of the cases it should work correctly. Anyway, if you experience some problem with the default kernel of OpenSUSE, try Vanilla Kernel, maybe your OpenSUSE will work a little bit smoother with Vanilla Kernel. And to install it, you just need to go to the Yast Software Manager and search for kernel vanilla. Select it for installation and install it. After the installation, open Yast, go to bootloader, bootloader options, and the default boot section, select Vanilla Kernel here. So after the reboot, your OpenSUSE will boot Vanilla Kernel, and if you see that it performs better than the default OpenSUSE kernel, you can remove the OpenSUSE kernels and keep only Vanilla Kernel. These were the essential things to do after installing OpenSUSE, but there are more things you can do. For example, I recommend you to check this Tumbleweed guide if you use OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, or you can also check the official guide to OpenSUSE Leap. There are also useful pages such as OpenSUSE Software, where you can learn about what software is available in OpenSUSE and install it. And also, if you're interested in some third-party packages, I highly recommend you to check the page pkg.org, where you can go to the OpenSUSE section and search for different packages and install them in your OpenSUSE. I hope this video was useful and it helped you to improve your OpenSUSE experience.